Hi, I'm Aliyah Aziz, and you're watching A News Weekend. Here are the headlines. White House labels initial round of talks with Iran on its nuclear program as constructive. U.S. President Donald Trump exempted smartphones and computers from new tariffs. Relations between Algeria and France are strained again after French prosecutors convicted one of the Algerian consular officials. The White House released a statement on Saturday praising the initial round of talks with Iran on its nuclear program as being very positive and constructive. President Donald Trump sent Special U.S. Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, to Oman to begin negotiations with an Iranian delegation in the hopes of easing tensions between the two countries. Our correspondent Ubi Shahbandar has more.
Steve Witkoff, President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, met face-to-face with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in the Arabian Gulf state of Oman on Saturday to kick off negotiations that Washington hopes will once and for all prevent Iran from ever developing a nuclear weapon in the future. Per a readout from the White House, Witkoff conveyed to the Iranians President Donald Trump's commitment to, quote, dialogue and diplomacy in order to avoid a potential direct clash with Iran. In March, President Trump sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, declaring the president's readiness to engage in direct talks in order to reach a deal on Iran's nuclear program. Trump has publicly warned that if a deal is not reached, Iran faces the prospects of military strikes against sensitive nuclear sites like the ones in Natanz and Fordow. The White House on Saturday said that while the issues under discussions are very complicated, Special Envoy Witkoff's direct communication with the Iranians was a step forward in achieving a mutually beneficial outcome. Both sides agreed to meet again next Saturday. On Friday, President Trump told reporters, quote, I want Iran to be wonderful, great, happy country, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. Prior to the talks in Oman, the Trump administration imposed additional sanctions on Iran's oil trading networks, including sanctions on a China-based crude oil storage terminal. China is Iran's biggest buyer of oil. American sanctions have severely damaged Iran's economy following President Trump's February executive order to put maximum pressure on Iran due to the administration's concerns that Iran continues to pursue underground nuclear weaponization activities. I'm Ubi Shabander, A News, Washington, D.C.
Delegations from Iran and the United States are set to meet again next week following what's being described as constructive nuclear talks, including the first direct contact between a Trump administration official and an Iranian counterpart. According to Iran's state news agency, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirmed that the next round of talks will take place in Oman on April 19th. He said Saturday's discussions got very close to establishing a framework for negotiations, with the two nations aiming to reach an agreement as quickly as possible. The Trump administration has exempted smartphones and key tech devices from tariffs, easing concerns from U.S. tech companies about rising prices. The United States president also said that he would provide an update on his administration's approach to semiconductor tariffs on Monday.
The Trump administration has lifted tariffs on smartphones, computers, and other tech goods. This includes a 125% tariff on Chinese imports. The exemption also covers electronic devices like semiconductors, solar cells, and memory cards. The decision follows fears from US tech companies about skyrocketing gadget prices. Many devices, including iPhones, are made in China. Apple alone accounted for more than half of US smartphone sales last year. Reports show that about 80% of iPhones for the US market are made in China. Only 20% are produced in India. Apple and other smartphone makers such as Samsung, Xiaomi and Huawei have been diversifying supply chains, turning to India and Vietnam as production hubs.
American consumer confidence took a significant hit in April, reaching levels not seen in decades. According to new data from the University of Michigan, inflation fears and intensifying trade tensions are fueling, raising concerns about the broader health of the U.S. economy.
Consumer sentiment in the United States fell sharply in April, with the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index dropping to 50.8, down from 57 in March. That's far below economists' expectations, who had forecast a more modest decline to 54.5. The survey found that the downturn in confidence was widespread, cutting across all demographics including age, income, education levels, regions, and political affiliations. The latest data was gathered through interviews conducted between March 25th and April 8th. Meanwhile, inflation expectations among consumers have surged. The 12-month inflation outlook rose to 6.7% in April, the highest level since 1981. That's a sharp jump from 5% the previous month. Over a 5-year horizon, inflation is now expected to average 4.4% from 4.1% in March. This economic anxiety is unfolding against a backdrop of escalating trade tensions. On Wednesday, President Donald Trump intensified the trade war with China, raising tariffs on Chinese goods to 125%. In a swift response, Beijing implemented an identical 125% tariff on American exports. Although the administration has suspended some targeted tariffs for a 90-day window, a broad 10% duty on most imports remains in effect. Additionally, a 25% tariff still applies to motor vehicles, steel and aluminum. These aggressive trade measures have sparked widespread concern that the U.S. economy may be heading into a period of high inflation and sluggish growth, or potentially a recession.
More than 20 people were killed in a Russian missile strike on the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy, according to the city's acting mayor. Ukraine's presidential chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, confirmed the attack, stating the missiles targeted civilians. The strike occurred shortly after U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff's visit to Moscow. Andriy Kovalenko, a security official who runs Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation, accused Russia of using diplomatic efforts as a cover for targeting civilians. Beijing faces major disruptions as powerful winds sweep northern China. Authorities urge residents to stay indoors. Our correspondent Mahnur Mahdum has more.
Beijing has been hit with intense strong winds that swept across northern China, with government urging millions of residents to stay indoors. The winds that started late Thursday and are expected to continue through the weekend have caused major disruption in public and travel life. More than 400 flights were cancelled at the Beijing Capital International Airport, and several rail services were also suspended. Major tourist attractions like the Great Wall of China and the Forbidden City also remain closed due to public safety reasons. The government issued an orange warning, the second highest in China's 4-tier warning system, and urged residents to take precaution against the falling debris and dust storm. The extreme weather is part of a larger cold front that have swept across northern China, with warnings of continued high winds throughout the week. Manu Maktoum, A News, Beijing, China.
Tensions are rising again between Algeria and France after a consular official was arrested in Paris over the kidnapping of an Algerian influencer. Algiers has strongly protested the move, calling it politically motivated and a threat to recently renewed efforts to repair ties.
Algeria has strongly protested after French prosecutors placed one of its consular officials in pre-trial detention. He is suspected of being involved in the April 2024 kidnapping of an Algerian influencer in a suburb of Paris. The case has caused a new rift between France and Algeria, just as both sides were trying to improve relations. On Friday, French authorities charged 3 men, including the Algerian consular officer, over the kidnapping of Amir Boukhouz, known online as Amir DZ. Boukhouz is a TikTok influencer with over 1 million followers and a known critic of the Algerian government. He has lived in France since 2016 and was granted political asylum last year. His lawyer said Boukhouz was kidnapped in April, but released the next day. French prosecutors say the suspects are being investigated for kidnapping, illegal detention, and links to a terrorist group. Algeria's foreign ministry reacted with anger. It said the arrest was made without following diplomatic procedures. Algeria called the arrest politically motivated and said it summoned the French ambassador to issue a strong protest. It also demanded the immediate release of the consular officer. The ministry warned that this incident could seriously harm relations with France. It said the move was no accident and accused France of trying to sabotage recent progress. That progress had come after a March 31st phone call between French President Emmanuel Macron and Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. Both leaders had agreed to work on fixing ties. Just last week, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot visited Algeria and said he hoped for a new phase in relations.
The European Commission is raising the alarm over a sharp rise of anti-Muslim hatred across the EU. Speaking at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, the Commission's coordinator warned that racism and Islamophobia are becoming increasingly normalized in media and society, citing a 140% spike in hate crimes in Germany alone since October 7th. She also called for greater diversity in media leadership to counter harmful narratives.
I think that we have, unfortunately, a normalization of anti-Muslim narrative, and narrative that is in the media, in the social media, doesn't remain only words. Obviously, you can have views about religions, about politics, but you cannot incite to hatred against a group of individuals who are fully parts of Europe, integral components of our society. I mean, definitely those acts are very detrimental to Europe, and they don't reflect our values. We are also happy to see that member states take measures, be it in Sweden or in Denmark, in the Netherlands. So we have some prosecutions, but we are happy to see that they implement our framework decision on combating xenophobia and racism, including religious intolerance.
At the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, foreign ministers from Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia came together to explore ways to promote peace and cooperation in the South Caucasus. The discussions focused on strengthening regional ties, fostering dialogue, and addressing the challenges of building long-term stability in the region.
In a pivotal moment for regional diplomacy, the foreign ministers of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia came together at the Antalya Diplomatic Forum to discuss the path towards sustainable peace and cooperation in the South Caucasus. The high-level panel on challenges and opportunities for regional cooperation in the South Caucasus focused on building resilience, promoting cross-border collaboration, and unlocking the region's full potential. Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov stressed that Azerbaijan has consistently taken the initiative when it comes to restoring regional connectivity.
It was a proposal of Azerbaijan to be included in the trilateral declaration of November 2020. There is a general statement about opening of communication between two countries, and there's a very specific reference about the unimpeded access from the western borders of Azerbaijan with its Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic.
Bayramov highlighted Azerbaijan's historical railway connections, noting that during the Soviet era, these routes were part of a unified Azerbaijani rail system. The panel also touched on the ongoing peace talks between Azerbaijan and Armenia, with both sides acknowledging the significant progress made so far. Minister Mirzoyan acknowledged the complexities of the talks, but reiterated Armenia's commitment to achieving peace. He stressed that despite ongoing constitutional and legal disagreements, dialogue remains crucial for finding balanced solutions.
We have expressed several times our readiness to initiate the process of dissolution of these structures. These structures can be dissolved when there is no conflict. So this is an interesting question. Do we have a conflict now or not? On the ground, no. We don't have a de facto conflict. On the papers, we don't have an agreement on establishment of peace and interstate relations signed and ratified.
Taking on the role of a neutral facilitator, Georgian Foreign Minister Maka Botchorishvili underscored Georgia's strategic interest in a peaceful South Caucasus.
Georgia is the place where both Armenia and Azerbaijan can rely on and can feel that we will provide all possible means to facilitate dialogue in our region, to facilitate cooperation in our region.
The panel at the Antalya Diplomatic Forum highlighted the opportunities for better cooperation in the South Caucasus. All three countries expressed a willingness to engage in dialogue, with Georgia offering to facilitate discussions.
Armenia and Iran have conducted a 2-day joint military exercise near their shared border. While the drills are officially framed as efforts to boost regional security and counter terrorism, the geopolitical undercurrents paint a more complex picture.
Armenia and Iran held a 2-day joint military exercise near their shared border. The drills included heavy weapon use, sniper coordination, demolition practice, and joint support fire operations. Iran's state-run Mehr news agency said the exercises were meant to show strength and Tehran's commitment to regional stability and national security. The timing is sensitive. Iran faces global pressure over its nuclear program and regional behavior, while Armenia has been building closer ties with the European Union and promoting democratic values. Still, Armenia's decision to hold military drills with Iran, a country often criticized by Western nations, raises questions about its foreign policy. Critics say Armenia is sending mixed messages, seeking stronger ties with the West while cooperating militarily with Iran. This approach could hurt Armenia's credibility and strain its growing relationships with Europe and the United States.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has urged Turkey to remain on the course of tight monetary policies while calling for comprehensive reforms. The OECD says these steps are vital for ensuring long-term economic stability, productivity, and sustainable growth.
The OECD's newly published economic survey of Turkey highlights the country's impressive economic growth over the past decade, ranking among the fastest growing in the OECD with an average annual expansion of 4.9%. But looking ahead, the report emphasizes the need for Turkey to adopt credible and prudent macroeconomic policies. Tight monetary policy and strong fiscal discipline are seen as key tools for maintaining momentum and driving inflation down towards the official 5% target. Speaking at the report's presentation in Istanbul, OECD's Secretary-General Matthias Cormann stressed the importance of long-term reforms. He said that maintaining tight monetary policy and fiscal discipline will be key to ensure sustainable economic convergence with other OECD countries and a continued decline in inflation towards the 5% target. Cormann added that structural reforms aimed at improving public spending efficiency and optimizing tax revenues will be essential to reinforce fiscal discipline. The OECD also praised Turkey's recent shift towards economic policy normalization following the May 2023 elections. The government has taken a series of steps to stabilize the macroeconomic environment, moves that have boosted financial market stability, increased investor confidence, and reduced economic uncertainty. Looking ahead, the OECD forecasts a GDP growth of 3.1% in 2025 and 3.9% in 2026. The message from the OECD is clear: stay the course, deepen reforms, and Turkey can secure a path toward more stable and sustainable economic growth.
Kazakhstan is making major strides in artificial intelligence with a strong focus on attracting top talent. The country aims to bring 10,000 AI specialists each year through the launch of a new international AI center. Our correspondent Farisa Kalimurzina has more.
Kazakhstan is in talks with tech heavyweights including Telegram, InDrive and Google to establish offices at LMI, one of the country's most ambitious AI projects. The facility will feature an educational hub for school children and a startup campus with the goal of boosting AI experts to $5 billion by 2029. To achieve this objective, Kazakhstan has launched a nationwide program to train 1 million people in AI skills. Additionally, the country plans to implement AI certification for government employees while expanding AI expertise in the corporate sector. Officials say LMI is set to open in the fall of this year will serve as a catalyst for AI development in Central Asia, launching 100 AI startups and supporting 1 scientific research project. Through these efforts, Kazakhstan hopes to join the global partnership on artificial intelligence. AI is also making an impact beyond the tech sector, transforming industries such as agriculture, transportation, and healthcare. For example, the Agri-Tech Hub startup is using AI and satellite data to monitor farmland and predict crop yields. In the mining sector, Kazakhstan is utilizing AI to analyze decades-old Soviet geological records. Vice Minister of Industry and Construction Janat Dubirova notes that AI is being used to process data from the 1950s to the 1980s, recognizing up to 90% of the information even from poor quality records. So far, over 56,000 geological records have been digitized. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Farisa Kalimurzina.
Well, that's all we have for now at this hour. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.